All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fight to Thrive podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tyler, here with a good friend today. Really excited to have my friend Makiko Arias. Is that how you say your last name?
Yes,
Arias?
Arias.
Arias, yes. Yeah, really excited to have you today. Makiko is my yoga instructor. I go to yin yoga at a local place here in Thousand Oaks in the Newberry Park, more specifically area of a yin yoga class. And I had never really been into yin yoga very much until I came to Thousand Oaks and I came to Makiko's class and just was able to find so much, not only on the physical side, as far as like the flexibility and things that I gained but it was more on the mental, emotional, spiritual side that I was able to get from her class on this Friday night, after a busy week, being able to go to that class and just completely unwind and relax and restore and find this sense of peace and rest, without having to get into any substances or alcohol or anything like that to help calm me down. It was just all natural and this kind of beautiful class that as I noticed that more people or I felt more people getting relaxed and having the same effect around me, it clearly had an effect on me and so been very grateful to not only have that class, but then to get to know Makiko as well, more outside of the class and been able to connect on some of these different things. And so welcome to the podcast, Makiko.
Thank you so much for having me today, Tyler.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I would like, just to get started, just because you have a pretty interesting story yourself that you've shared a little bit in class and outside of class with me about your hearing and losing most of your hearing and that being a difficult process for you and how you were able to kind of overcome that and what that journey has looked like for you. If you could just kind of start elaborating on that a little bit for us.
Okay, so my journey about the hearing loss began in 2011. I lost one of my hearing. When I woke up in the morning, I just couldn't hear anything. And it just happened. And after I lost my hearing one side, and something within me, something start, and the other sense um, became sharp. And I realized that I am going to lose the other side of the hearing, which is I'm going to be deaf. I realized that I'll be deaf. And I got so scared. And I went to the doctor and asked them about my hearing. And all the doctor told me, oh, you're going to be fine. Usually, hearing sensation loss happens only 1 year. So you're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. But I knew that I will lose the other hearing. And then next year, boom, I just lost both of my hearing. And I was right. And then my journey starts, my beautiful journey starts in 2012. That's the time I became totally deaf. And actually, this journey was a spiritual awakening for me. And it opened up a lot of possibility. I never realized it. And so this is my journey of hearing, 2012. And I practice yoga. I practice meditation. And I also was taking a sound bath healing. And I realized that I was so disconnected within myself. And I didn't even realize how I was so disconnected. And one day, I feel so aligned with myself, with my higher self, and with the universe. And when I was in a dark tunnel, I lost myself, I lost balance physically, mentally, emotionally. And I used to look for a solution for outside of the world. I tried everything, trying to heal myself. I did everything, you name it. Like I went to a psychic,
Hmm.
I went to acupuncture. I did flower budge therapy. I tried everything, kinesiology, or everything. I tried to heal myself, but I could not heal myself. I was like, why? How can I heal myself? And one day, when I meditate, when I was meditating, I feel so connected within myself, and I got the message. The message was gift. I didn't know what it was first time. What is a gift? Hearing loss was a gift. But it took me a while to understand the meaning of the word, the gift. So hearing loss was a gift for me to
Wow.
grow, to transform. That was my big turning point.
And so that's, first of all, that's beautiful. But when you talk about healing, your healing process, are you saying you were going about trying to heal like the pain you were feeling inside, or were you trying to heal your hearing loss? If you could just clarify that.
Both.
Mm,
So I wanted to heal my hearing.
mm,
And I strongly believe that I can get my hearing back. However, all the doctors that I saw, they call me, oh, you already lost. Your cochlea is already dead. So you won't be able to get your hearing back anymore.
mm,
And I try a lot of different types of treatment in order to get my hearing back. However, it didn't work for me. So that's the physical aspect of healing. And mental aspect of healing is I was so depressed,
mm,
and I had a panic attack, and mentally I was so ill, and I was trying to figure out how can I get my my mental state is to better place. So and then yoga kicks in,
mm,
sound meditation. And what I learned is this, with this lesson is that true healing comes within you.
mm. That's
And
so good.
yes, we all have ability to heal within ourselves. But once you start looking for the outside of the world and you forget about the true power of healing within you.
Mm. And so what do you think? Well, first couple questions. When let's say this was 2012 and you were doing yoga and sound and meditation, was that something that was new to you after you had lost your hearing?
What was that? I'm sorry, one more time.
Was that something that was new to you, those practices, after you lost your hearing?
No, it was not new.
Okay.
Before I knew about the yoga, but it was on and off. Wow, yoga just after the yoga, it just make me feel good. But I didn't know what it was. So I was not consistent. I was just, sometimes once a week or maybe twice a week. I just go, because I like the teacher. The teacher is always smiling, so positive. I just like the vibe, of yoga. So, but I didn't know nothing about yoga. I just feel good after the yoga. I don't know what it was. But after I lost my hearing, I lost my mental state. I lost the balance physically, mentally, emotionally, and I was in hospitalized when I got the panic attacking, and I was almost dying because of the symptom of the panic attacking. And finally, the doctor gave me a morphine, and then I was able to go back to normal. So I'm sorry, what was the question?
So when you were,
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
when you were getting back or after you had lost your hearing, like one of the things you said came to you in the meditation is that this
right.
is a gift, right? Like that's pretty profound and beautiful. And I can already kind of see this journey
Yeah.
that you're taking, how it could have turned into a gift because now
Okay.
these practices
Right.
that you've incorporated and been
Right.
consistent with, they have led you to not only create this internal place of
Right.
beauty that you have,
Yeah.
but now, like I kind of mentioned at the start of the episode, you're also taking that into other people's lives. You know, you're helping other people's healing process as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so as as you went through this journey,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of talk to us about what that was like as far as how your evolution
Mm-hmm.
developed from needing
Mm-hmm.
to be healed to being more of a healer.
Okay. Okay. So, after I was hospitalized, doctor gave me, trying to give me a medication. And I had a moment to really think about it because the medication can help you, make you feel better, like for, quick, but you're not working on the root cause.
Mm,
And I have my younger brother, he suffered from anxiety and depression, and he's been on the medication for a long time. And I've seen him and, his side effects and lots of stuff. So I chose not to rely on the medication. And I told the doctor, can I try on a natural way? I want to try with practicing yoga, meditation. And that's my the healing journey begin. And I used to practice just a yoga maybe once a week, maybe sometimes on and off. However, yoga was to me my natural medicine.
mm.
So I practice yoga not every single day, maybe 2 hours, sometimes like 3 hours a day. I had to practice, otherwise I go crazy. So that's how I, gain myself back by practicing consistently every day, every day.
And that's kind of a big shift from going, oh, yeah, I'm not consistent. I'm going every once in a while to talking to your doctor about, hey, I'd like to try this method first before I'm, going on all this other medication. So, what about yoga and meditation kind of made you feel so strongly about wanting to really pursue it more intensely?
Okay, when it comes to healing, right? We all have the ability to heal within ourselves.
Mhm.
However, you don't know how to tap into it. You don't know how to connect
Mm,
within yourself, your body, mind, soul, and spirit. We are all connected. Disease, I believe disease come from not just, the physical, reason.
mhm,
Most disease comes from your mind. The one of the Buddha's teaching, I'm not a Buddhist, but one of the Buddha's teachings said your disease come from your mind.
mm,
Maybe not all the time, but a lot of time. So I strongly believe that our body, mind, soul, spirit, all connected.
mm.
And the practice of yoga, meditation, sound bath is a powerful, profound way for you to get connect, for you to tap into the space where you can heal.
And why, I'll push you a little bit. Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think that those practices specifically allow you to tap into that space? What about them do you think is so sacred or, so transformative or healing in themselves?
It was to me very spiritual experience. And so when I start practicing yoga, I was deaf. I couldn't really hear anything. So I was just looking at my neighbors and to see, oh, just coping, right? But I was so focused on within myself because of my hearing. I could not hear it, but I was able to focus on myself, within myself. And one day when I was in a downward facing dog position, I closed my eyes and then I saw the spinning white, like a light around my third eye.
Mm.
At that time, I didn't know what it was. But to me, right now, when I think about it, that was the spiritual awakening of my third eye chakra. It's all about like an intuition. So I was guided to more like a spirituality, and I have learned about the system of chakra, energy system. The chakra means the energy wheel, and this chakra is according to yoga philosophy. Our body is not just our physical body. We have 5 layers of the body. So I was able to access to deeper than the physical aspect of the body.
Mm.
It's hard to explain, but you have to experience it. So I realized it that I am not just this physical being. I'm the emotional body, energy body, wisdom
That's
body.
yeah, that's very beautiful. And it makes me kind of go down this whole train of thought regarding this idea around the physical body is not just in the body itself. To me, it's in the brain and in the mind as well. Whereas, like, the brain, I think, is meant to be used more as a tool for us and not for us to necessarily identify with all of the thoughts that are happening all the time, day to day, that our brain comes up with. Because a lot of what our brain is doing is it's trying to keep us safe from threats that might be, or at least perceived threats in our environment. That's the brain's main job. And so if we're constantly stuck in that thought loop, and a lot of times, especially, in modern age where there's so much stimulation all the time and there's so many thoughts happening, and it can be it's like the body, where the body needs rest, the brain needs rest as well, and in order, you mentioned like the third eye, and I've read some stuff from like Dr. Joe Dispenza where, if we're looking at it more scientifically, it's kind of like in the center of the brain, like behind your the bridge of your nose, or around that area where your pineal gland is and where melatonin is created. And I won't dive into kind of the science behind that, but where what I kind of view that is like the third eye is kind of looking at ourselves, like taking a step back from ourselves and looking at ourselves more objectively, and our thoughts more objectively, and taking that seat of like the witness or the soul, whatever you want to call it. And that's where I think, real spirituality for me has taken, been taken to a whole nother level as I was able to go through my healing process, through, my surgeries and radiation, and my the recovery process from removing the tumor from my body. Um, it's very similar to what you had gone through, is like I was looking for all these things on the outside to make me feel okay on the inside, but really this type of work that we're talking about right now is what allowed the true healing to start taking place. And it really wasn't about doing more. It was actually about doing a lot less,
Yeah.
and the things that I was doing, from like similar things. I did a lot of breath work, yoga, meditation, and a lot of prayer that allowed me to create a lot more rest. And it's like, in order for the body to heal, you need to rest. That's what I had to do after my surgeries. I had to rest. Like, my body wasn't really giving me a choice, which was causing a lot of turmoil and a lot of energy buildup, um, mentally and emotionally. And so, like, by some of the things that I was exposed to, similar to the things that you've talked about, it allowed me to develop this sense of spiritual rest. And
Yeah.
that's when, again, by actually doing less, that's when a lot of the healing started to take place, and I got in touch with that light that I believe is within all of us. It's always like that source of light is always within us, ready to shine. It's a matter of just like letting the clouds pass by and not trying to cling to them or hang on to them and make them stick around, um, which is what a lot of times I think people do, and we do subconsciously or unconsciously, is to let these or to try to like Michael Singer is a mentor. I've never met him, but read a lot of his books and stuff and listen to his podcast. One of the things he talks about is like, a leaf will fall into the water and create ripples. But instead of just like letting the ripples kind of naturally pass and just letting them go, we try to jump into the water to stop the ripples. But all that does is create more waves, and we're fighting against the reality of life and what it is. And instead of like creating this sense of acceptance and seeing in a beautiful way that you talked about of like, this is a gift, seeing how life, even though it may seem on the surface to be working against you, it actually is working for you if you can allow it to be that way and kind of get out of your own way um, in that process. You know what I mean? Do you have any thoughts around any of that stuff?
Yeah, it really makes sense. So, what you say is thank you so much for saying that. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's what I really felt. And also, another big part of my healing, before I received the message, the hearing loss as a gift, I used to be the victim of whatever happened to my life. Why this happened? What did I do? And I used to complain about it. I used to be so negative about, whatever happened to me. However, after I receive a message, like, the gift of my life, hearing loss was a gift. And then I start realizing, wow, I was able to, before I could hear, right? And I didn't really appreciate it. However, after I lost my hearing, I get so much support from my friends and family. And I realized that, wow, I'm so blessed. And the gratitude, like start, like a coming, like bursting within myself. And I start gratitude for every single people, every single, things, and my just gratitude. I was filled of gratitude. And that's another reason I was able to heal. The gratitude is very powerful for your healing. And once you start gratitude, you are going to become from victim to creator of your life.
Mm. Yes, that is so good. And it's also can be very hard. It can be very hard for people to make that shift. It's easy to do, for a week or a month even, but like to continue to be in that, to take that perspective. And one of the things I like to think about, whether it's my diagnosis, your loss of hearing, it kind of helps put things in perspective of like, oh, wow, it's kind of amazing that this hearing works so well all the time. For most people, it's a miracle. All the little muscles that are working and the acoustics that are happening inside and how it's being transmitted in the brain, it's incredible. And we take it for granted. We take these little things for granted, but until it gets pulled away from you, it's like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it almost like you said, your other senses became like supercharged, and in this intuition you were able to develop. And I think it's when something like that gets pulled away from you, it gets easier to be like, wow, let's take a step back and just recognize all the beauty that's here, all the life that's here, whether that's the animals, the plants. We happen to be the perfect distance from the sun to support all of this life. Whereas if you look at the rest of the galaxy, at least with the tools that we have, we can't see any
Right.
other sign of life anywhere, but we get to be here for whoever nobody knows how many years that they get to be here, but it's a relatively short period of time. So let's stop and smell the roses. Let's enjoy all these blessings, all these great things that we do have, and be grateful and create more of this positive internal state by shifting into these more positive emotions, like you've already touched into gratitude, acceptance. When we're vibrating in that higher frequency, it's easier to also tap into things like peace and joy and love. And when we're creating, focusing on cultivating and creating that internal state, it only attracts more of the same from the world around us, and when you get two beings together that are vibrating at that higher frequency, it just amplifies the wavelength. It amplifies that energy, and the idea that a rising tide lifts all sails, we can help bring each other up. And I think that this podcast, or what you're doing, or my business, it's all what how I view is is trying to serve, right? Is trying to take this internal state that I've worked hard on, but also I view as a gift, like because of these difficult things that I've had to walk through that have made me get into this work, and also the people that have come along at the perfect time to allow me to get into this work, and what I view as God working in my life to set me up in into cultivating this internal state. My healing process, in order for that to continue, it has to be passing that on, pushing that forward into other people, which is why I'm starting to get into teaching some classes and stuff myself, and I've been doing this online work for the past year or so. But I'm curious, like, because we need to be reminded of this stuff. It's not just something that you can learn one time and then you got it. Like, it's something that I have to keep working on. And that's why I keep doing my meditation practice in the morning and my breath work and going to your class and having these conversations, is because, if you don't use it, you lose it type of thing. And in the reminders and the repetition, and shifting the focus from myself into other people is what I would say is like the main form of my continued healing right now. And I'm curious if any of that resonates with you, and maybe why you moved into the, space from a student to instructor.
A question?
No, no worries. Yeah, is that part of why you had moved into the space from the student to the instructor? Is the teaching a part of your healing process as well?
Yes, actually, I don't consider myself like a teaching. I'm just
Hmm.
sharing. And I receive a lot of healing energy from my students. So I really appreciate the opportunity that I can share whatever I have, whatever I experience. It's so grateful, for me to be able to, to speak about, talk about the healing and, the yoga. So I am so honored, to be able to share my experience. Yeah,
It's beautiful.
yeah.
And what when did you start to make that shift into sharing or teaching, whatever you want to call it?
It was a process.
Hmm.
Process. Hmm.
When did you
Oh, when
do
did I
that?
start
Hmm.
teaching? It's a 2017.
Okay.
2017.
Got it.
And so I didn't get my hearing back, but I got the cochlear implant, and so that I can, communicate with the students. That's the 2017 and 2019. So by the time 2019, I was able to pick up a lot of sound. So before 2017, I couldn't really teach because of my hearing. But I took a teacher's training when I was not be able to hear the sound, but my mind was beyond like hearing loss. I couldn't really hear anything, but I tried to take a teacher's training. And later on, I was able to receive a cochlear implant. And one of the another thing I would like to talk about is connecting to the universe. So when I lost my hearing, all the doctors say, "Oh, you need to give up on your hearing." My friends, "Oh, you need to give up. You need to live like a hearing impaired person." But I always had the hope that I am going to get my hearing back. I don't know how, but I'm not gonna get I'm not gonna give up on my hearing. So I had that strong hope within myself for years and years, no matter what happened, no matter what the doctor said, no matter what my friends said. And one day, out of blue, there's the doctor showed up and he said, "Wow, you've been living in this condition for such a long time. I'm going to refer you to see a best doctor for your hearing loss." And that's how I got my cochlear implant. I didn't know nothing about the cochlear implant, but my whole point of this story is once you release the intention, whatever you want, wish, right? The universe will take care of it. You don't have to
Mm.
figure out how to get there. You just have to have a feeling that, you want to manifest, you want to get, you want to, set your goal, whatever. You just have to have a feeling and never give up.
I love that. It's beautiful. One of the things we talk about in the integrated mindset course that I teach is when you're living in these lower energy states of, fear, doubt, worry, grief, anxiety, apathy, shame, when we can, the first step to transcending that and getting above the line is by some of the stuff we've talked about, but ultimately letting go of those things and ultimately that's a part of a growth process. Because if you're still living down in those states, consistently or every day, there's a part of you that needs to grow from there. And part of that growth is first letting go of, again, from my analogy, or let's use a different analogy. Let's say life is like a river, you're flowing down that river and you hit a rock, right? Like something that's going to make us anxious, losing our hearing, whatever, it is for our listeners out there. You hit a rock, and instead of just bouncing off of it and continue to flow down the river of life, we try to hang on to the rock or we try to push it down. And that's what creates all this negative energy. And so let's just let go of it and continue to float down the river. And it's easy for me to say it like that. It's a lot harder to actually do in action. And so that's where a lot of these practices will come into play in order to create that sense of like trust. The way I view it is like when you can connect with that source of light, when you can connect with that higher power, and I don't view, some people will view meditation and yoga as like conflicting with God or church or whatever you want to call it. I don't think that they conflict with each other at all. I'm not trying to use one of them to replace another one. The way I view it is if I can use these tools like meditation and yoga, breath work to calm what's going on internally and again create more healing, it's easier for me to hear God's voice, to feel his light, God, universe, whatever you want to call it. And so now when you get to this place where you experience that light enough in your life and you have the relationship, that it's there. Now you can trust enough in that greater power to let go of the rock and to not cling to it anymore. But now, okay, yeah, you've transcended above that line. You're in this more peaceful, joyful state. It's not like you're going to stay there forever. Like we're always going to touch, it's a natural part of our human psyche to touch into fear, angers, sometimes these emotions will pop up and those are for our good too. There's a reason that those will pop up. But the shift that you make when they do come up is that you're able to, if you're used to being more above the line of like in this positive state, when they do come up, you're able to recognize that you're thrown off center. You're able to recognize that sooner because you've been practicing these, these practices are a form of mental training. When you are able to utilize this mental training to stay centered, when you get thrown off centered, you're able to bounce back sooner, right? But so now we're doing that. We're coming back to center. We're having these what we would call in the course reset drills, where we can get back into that centered place and we're above the line. But yeah, now we have this additional space where we used to be filled with like, anxious thoughts or whatever. There's this space that's created. So what do we want to fill that with? What do we want to bring into our life? And that's where I think we're getting into what you're talking about of like the idea of manifesting or setting an intention. I want to get my hearing back. I'm not listening to all the noise or, about how everybody is saying this isn't going to happen, give up. I'm not going to go into that because I'm in this state of just like, I know that God's there and he's working for my good, and I'm confident he's going to find the way even if I can't see it right now. And that to me is the difference between letting go and surrender. We're just surrendering whatever his will is, whatever the universe's will is, to make what we can feel as what's going to be our destiny to take place. And yeah, we need to be a full participant in life to see that through. We need to put in our best effort every single day and like go to the doctor that has the cochlear implant and be taking the steps. It's not like you just sit back on a beach and then everything else takes care. Like you have to fully participate. But the difference for me is you're not trying to put a stranglehold on your plan. You can create plans and general thoughts of where you think it's going to go, but you have to hold on loosely to that plan. You can't try to force your will into existence. You gotta tap into God's.
Yeah, you just have to surrender it, right?
Mhm.
Because the resistance causes suffering. Resistance causes suffering. That's what I learned. So you have to let it go. You have to surrender, release.
One of the other things we say in the course is that what you resist persists, right?
Mm,
So if you try to push it down. And
right,
that can even be yourself, right? Because
right.
again, kind of back to the analogy I'm talking about, where our brain or our smaller self is
Mm-hmm.
having more of these fear-based thoughts, you don't want to push that away.
Yeah.
Like you want to like what I like to think about is like there's kind of like this little kid inside of me that, and I think inside of all of us, that has our own healing to do, our own insecurities, our own fears, and but it's based on what our exposure to the world has been, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm always going up to that little kid in me or that my ego or my psyche in order to solve every problem, to me that's kind of an arrogant way of looking at life. Even the most brilliant scientists in the world haven't been able to figure out all of the things that make the world what it is. There's still a lot of things that we don't know from a scientific, with these some of these energy things that I've been talking about. There's a lot of things we don't understand as humans. So why should I always think that my brain or my exposure to the world is right, and so instead of going up to my brain for everything, recognize that, okay, there's this part of me that I want to use as a tool, but there are things that are outside of my control that I don't have all the answers for, and I don't need to always keep trying to think of making everything perfect. And that's what a lot of this is for me too, is letting go. Another level of letting go is letting go of that idea of perfection, where every little blemish, every little thing that's wrong in my life, I need to jump in and fix right now. And life is going to be messy. It's going to be imperfect all the time, but we don't need to wait in order to be happy. We can feel happy and joyful now, even though that there's things that are happening closer to the surface that are always going to be a little bit messy, but again, they're probably happening for our good because they're forcing us to continue to grow. And then that can allow us to have gratitude even for those things that don't seem to be for us, because we know that it's pushing us to become better and become more. And so to take it to a deeper level where I think this is most important, talking about that smaller self, or that smaller person inside of us that's having these worries or whatever, in pushing us in different directions. We want to show that side of us love, right? We want to love that smaller self. We want to love that deeper self that can kind of see all this going on from the soul level, and then love the source of it. And I feel that that process, if I can really get into that sense of self-love, that really accelerates the healing process. And if I can love myself well, it is so much easier for me to love those around me, to love God, and to shift my focus away from myself towards others, because I feel safe. I have this sense of psychological safety. I'm loved. I'm contributing to others, and um, then life starts to get a lot simpler. And I don't need all these, things or achievements or, quote unquote success in order to feel safe and okay. And that's what all this kind of comes back to for me, is this perspective. How can we maintain this perspective um, on a day-to-day basis, and so that all of our little problems don't seem so big, and that we can continue to grow and shift away from the insecure thoughts or whatever's going on in there, and smile. Shift and smile is another thing we say in the course all the time. Shift into the positive and just have fun. Life short, like again, life short. We don't have a lot of control over everything that's happening. So let's just enjoy the ride a little bit and not take everything so dang seriously?
Right? That's so beautiful, Tyler.
Thank you. Thank you. So when you were going, just a couple more questions. When you were moving into this space and losing your hearing, were you still in Japan at the time?
Yes, 2011 that's the time the big tsunami happened, right?
Hmm.
In 2012, yes, I was in Japan.
And so what year did you move to the US?
2015, we moved to San Diego, and yeah.
And so I'm curious, like, because that's a big change in itself, right? So as you were making that shift, did you find the move in this is kind of brings me back to the idea of like prioritizing what's going on internally versus externally, because you could have gone and made that move and all of these things were changing around you, but it sounds like you were able to still work on your healing and cultivate this beauty inside as you made that move. And yeah, I'm curious, like, was it hard? Was that hard for you as so much was changing externally, or was it just natural to continue that growth process
It
as you
was
moved halfway across the world?
it was a hard shift from
Mhm.
moving from Japan to United States. First of all, the ability to understand the language. Japanese is to me more easier for me to understand, and English is we have like a the different like frequency, right? The Japanese is very like maybe around here, but English is like up and down, up and down, so it's hard for me to understand everything. And like a conversation, right? In English, like they do like conversation is like a catchable. In Japan, I was able to ask the people to write it down, because the writing, that's the only way I could understand. But in United States here, like conversation is like catchable. So
Mhm.
when I ask them about, oh, can you please write it down what you said? They say, oh, don't worry about it. It's all right. So felt so lonely, left out. And but I understand the culture of Western and difference, Western and Eastern culture. But it was a big, profound shift. And after I moved to United States, I start having more anxiety and panic attacking.
Mm.
However, those experience, panic attacking and anxiety, I needed to experience. I needed to experience. I need to feel those emotions so that I can really understand how, the people who suffer from anxiety and panic attacking, I can really understand how they
Mm.
feel. So
Mm.
all the experience that I been, experience is a gift for me to grow, for me to understand, the other people's feeling.
It's a perfect example of this saying. I think I already said it, but life is happening for you, not to you.
Yeah.
How can we continue to remember that? And I
How can
think,
uh-huh.
yeah, another thing that Michael Singer says a lot is like, you know, mantras. Mantras can be good. When
Yes.
things come up, one of the things that I like to say is I can handle this. I can handle this. And it's going to be okay. That type of sayings, those types of thoughts of like, yeah, it's going to come in the part of our psyche that thinks that it can't handle it is going to try to wrestle with it, but like work again, coming from that deeper place, I can handle this. Let go. It's going to be okay, and it's happening for us. And I really am so grateful, to have come across you and to listen to your story and hear more details about it, because that move in itself in the language barrier would have been too much for most people to handle. Most people wouldn't have been able to handle it, let alone dealing with your hearing loss and all the anxiety and everything that you were experiencing from that. And it's really beautiful to see the amount of strength that you have and the smile that you always have, regardless of what's going on, and in the consistency in which you bring that energy to the table. It's inspiring to me, and it makes me want to do the same, to deliver more to people and have the kind of impact that you are, because it's transformative and it's life-changing, and it's much needed for our community. And I want you to know how much I appreciate what you do, every day.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for actually as you ask me question and it makes me feel more like understand myself because I don't ask myself that, with that kind of question.
Mhm.
So with this, the conversation, I actually more um, begin to understand myself on a deeper level.
Beautiful. I, I love these conversations, and not everybody can have them, and not everyone's going to be receptive to them. But my hope is that even people that aren't ready to have this conversation can benefit from hearing it, in the podcast space, and hopefully can start moving a little bit in a different direction in how they're facing. I think your phone's going off. I don't know if you can silence it. Sorry, it's kind of loud. How they're facing their stress and, again, some of these negative thoughts, and maybe starting to incorporate some of these practices we're talking about. Try out a yoga class, try out a meditation, or you can talk to me offline about the integrated mindset course, where we dive in a lot of this stuff and what's going on with your life and trying to dive deeper and figure some of that out. And I'm curious with you, Makiko, do you do any of your meditations or sound work or any of that through a Zoom format?
Do I do?
Like, do you do any work over Zoom with people?
No, don't really. I don't really do, working
Uh-huh.
with the Zoom.
More in-person stuff.
But I
Yeah.
should so that
Yeah.
more I can reach out to more, the people who need.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I'll share the link to your Instagram page because I know you still have a lot of good content on there that people can benefit from. And if you're in the, Newbury Park, Thousand Oaks area, come
Right.
check out, the Foundry. Come check out Makiko's class. It's amazing. She does such a great job. And what is your Instagram handle?
It's Mikiko Arias. I also have another one for my the sound bath account is Mikiko Divine Healing.
Okay, perfect. So I will put links to both of those
Yeah.
in the show notes.
Mhm.
And any, I guess, let's say that, someone is listening to this and they're like, I'm broken. I need some of this healing. What would you recommend as a good first step?
First step,
Hmm.
get connect. Turn your awareness inward and trying to connect with your body, mind, soul, spirit. And we all have the answers within us. We do. We all have the answer. You just need to tap into it.
Love it.
Create space for yourself to get connect. It doesn't have to be a yoga, right? It doesn't have
Mhm.
to be a, some people, they don't do yoga. It can be anything. You can go to a nature, hiking, beach, take
Mhm.
some quiet moment, quiet your mind. Amazing thing happen.
I love that idea of creating space. Creating space is a perfect way to put it because we don't do that. There's so many distractions in our modern environment. Pick up this phone, and you can distract yourself as much as you want for as long as you want. Um, and to me, that's a form of denial that can be a form of resistance or victimhood when we're just we don't want to face what's going on inside. But when we do that, it's almost like, the boogeyman in the closet. It's really not that big of a deal. We just need to face him. We just need to open up the closet door and deal with what's happening there. But if we keep distracting for longer and longer and we don't create that space, we don't go on a walk without our headphones on or go to the beach or, go on a hike or try a meditation or, just sit in stillness for a little bit and allow things to kind of quiet down, then that boogeyman just kind of gets bigger and bigger, in our head. And it just, that energy builds up more and more. And so, yeah, try to incorporate some space in your life, whether it's just 30 minutes at the end of the day on a walk outside with your dog or whatever that looks like for you, that sense of calm and stillness, and try to take that seat of the witness, try to step back and view what's going on in your mind, in your spirit, um, and just watch. Don't judge yourself. Don't, get in and try to change what's happening. Just take that seat of the witness, watch what's going on. And if you need help with some of that, people like Makiko and I are working with people all the time to help with their healing process, and we would love to, help you as well. So thank you so much, Mikiko. Any other closing thoughts?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed talking about this conversation, the healing. We should, continuously, create a space, for healing for people.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mikiko. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thank you for having
Mhm.
me.
Bye.